You were told probiotics were the smart move, more good bacteria, better digestion, less bloating, problem solved. But what if your gut is already overcrowded, inflamed, and jammed like a highway at rush hour? Then tossing in more bacteria can feel less like help, and more like pouring cars into a traffic pileup. If you care about your health, stay with me, because what I'm about to show you could explain why your bloating keeps coming back, why your stomach still feels heavy, and why one common kitchen spice may work better for some people than another trendy probiotic bottle. And before we go further, here's the twist nobody expects. This is not really about good bacteria versus bad bacteria. It's about where they're hiding. It's about the shield protecting them. I call it the slime shield. That's the simple name. Scientists call it a biofilm. Think of it like this. Imagine unwanted gut microbes building a sticky apartment complex on the lining of your digestive tract. Then they cover it with slime. That slime acts like armor. It makes them harder to reach, harder to calm down, and much harder to clear out. Some reviews describe biofilm microbes as being up to 1,000 times more protected from treatment than free-floating bacteria. That's why the same gut issue can keep showing up again and again, even when you feel like you're doing everything right. This is why nothing worked before. Not the yogurt, not the random probiotic, not the gut reset powder. If your gut is dealing with a slime shield, you're not fighting loose bacteria. You're fighting bacteria in a bunker, and that changes everything. Because once that bunker forms, symptoms don't just stay mild, they spread. At first, it feels small. A little gas after meals, a little pressure under the ribs. You wake up puffy. Your jeans fit tighter by evening. You assume it's stress, or age, or just normal digestion. It doesn't stop there. That trapped fermentation can start pushing upward. Now you feel burpy, acidic, full after a few bites. Bread feels worse. Sugar hits you weird. Your energy dips after lunch like someone pulled a plug. And it gets worse. When the gut stays irritated, your barrier can weaken, inflammation can rise, and the whole system gets noisy. You may notice cravings, skin flare-ups, brain fog, constipation one day, urgency the next. The gut stops feeling predictable. It feels haunted. Here's the scary part. Many people double down at exactly the wrong moment. They take more probiotics. Not because probiotics are always bad, they're not. Some strains help some conditions. But probiotics are strain-specific, not magic, and their effects do not apply equally across all products or all people. NIH sources stress that different probiotic strains can act very differently, and side effects can include gas and other GI symptoms in some users. Most people get this wrong. They think probiotics are like water. If a little helps, more must help more, but the gut doesn't work that way. In people with certain gut issues, adding more live bacteria can mean more fermentation, more pressure, and more confusion. Reviews on Probiotic Safety Note reported GI side effects such as abdominal cramping, nausea, soft stools, flatulence, and taste disturbance. So what do you do instead? You stop thinking only about adding bacteria. You start thinking about changing the terrain. This is where spices become interesting. Not because they are magic, not because they sterilize your gut, and definitely not because 1 teaspoon will fix years of damage overnight. But some spices contain compounds that can make life harder for unwanted microbes, weaken their defenses, calm inflammation, and support the gut lining at the same time. That combination matters, because a gut problem is rarely just about bacteria. It's also about inflammation, barrier damage, stagnation, and the slime shield. So in this video, I'm ranking the top 5 spices for people who feel like probiotics are making them worse, not better. We're going from least effective to most effective. And yes, I'm saving the most powerful one for last. Because number 1 doesn't just hit one pathway, it hits multiple. It goes after the membrane, the energy system, and the shield. That's why it stands above the rest. But don't skip ahead. If you use the wrong spice the wrong way, you can absolutely make yourself miserable. Let's start with number 5. Number 5 is turmeric. Turmeric is not the fastest hitter on this list. It's more like the cleanup crew. Its star compound, curcumin, seems to interact with the gut microbiome in 2 directions. It can help shape the microbiome, and the microbiome can transform it into active compounds. That's a big reason curcumin keeps showing up in gut research. But here's the problem. Curcumin has poor absorption and low bioavailability, which means turmeric is helpful, but usually not the most aggressive option if your main goal is knocking down microbial overactivity quickly. So why is it even on the list? Because when your gut is inflamed, angry, and reactive, going in with only a harsh antimicrobial approach can backfire. Turmeric brings balance. It's the spice you use when the fire is part of the problem. It helps make the environment less welcoming for chaos. But its limitation is obvious. It's not the strongest direct bad bacteria disruptor here. That's why I score turmeric a 5.8 out of 10. Useful, smart, but not the star. The best way to use it is simple. Half a teaspoon of turmeric powder in food, once or twice a day. If tolerated, combine it with a pinch of black pepper and a meal containing some fat. That helps absorption. Warning: if you have gallbladder issues, take blood thinners or get reflux from spices. Be careful. More is not better. Now number 4 gets more interesting. Ginger. Ginger is one of those spices people underestimate because it feels too normal, too common, too familiar. But ginger has something most gut sufferers desperately need: movement. When your gut feels trapped, heavy, and stagnant, sometimes the problem is not just what's growing, it's what's not moving. Ginger helps there, and that changes the game. A crossover trial in 123 healthy adults found that short-term ginger juice intake changed gut microbiota composition, increased species number, lowered the Prevotella to Bacteroides ratio, reduced some pro-inflammatory Ruminococcus groups, and increased anti-inflammatory Faecalibacterium. In plain English, ginger didn't just soothe the stomach, it changed the neighborhood. But here's the limitation: ginger is not a heavy microbial hammer. It's a flow improver, a pressure reliever, a traffic officer. That makes it powerful for bloating, nausea, and that awful sensation where food just sits there. It also makes ginger a great setup spice. It gets the gut ready for what comes next. I give ginger a 6.6 out of 10. Solid, reliable, better than most people think. Exact use: fresh is best. Slice 1 to 2 inches of fresh ginger, simmer it in hot water for 10 minutes, and drink it before your heaviest meal. If you prefer powder, start with a quarter to half a teaspoon in warm water or soup. Warning: too much ginger can irritate some people, especially if you already run hot, get reflux, or take blood thinners. Now number 3 is where things change. Cinnamon, not the sugary fake cinnamon roll version. Real cinnamon, and preferably Ceylon, not cassia, if you're using it regularly. Why cinnamon? Because cinnamon does something that matters way more than people realize. It doesn't just go after microbes. It helps the barrier. That is huge. Because if the wall of the gut is weak, irritation keeps leaking through. The immune system stays activated, and every meal feels like an argument. In a study on cinnamaldehyde, the main active compound in cinnamon, researchers found stronger gut barrier markers, better mucin production, lower inflammatory signals, and major shifts in the microbiota. Tight junction markers like ZO1, Claudin-1, and occludin rose substantially, while inflammatory signals like TNF-alpha and IL-6 dropped. Even the microbial balance shifted in a healthier direction. That's a big deal, because if you're only trying to kill bad bacteria, you're missing half the picture. You also need to repair the fence. Cinnamon helps with that, but cinnamon still has a weakness. It's more supportive than dominant. It can tighten the gut wall, calm the inflammatory noise, and make the terrain less friendly to the wrong microbes. But it's still not number 1, not even close. I score cinnamon a 7.4 out of 10. Use it like this. Start with a quarter to half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in oatmeal, yogurt, or warm tea once a day. Warning: do not go wild with cassia cinnamon every day. It contains more coumarin, which can be hard on the liver in high amounts. And now you see the pattern. We started with calm, then movement, then barrier repair. But none of those are the true closer. None of those are the spice I'd put at the top if your gut feels like it's quietly working against you. Because the next 2 are different. They bring sharper tools. They hit the microbial side harder. And number 1, the spice people usually overlook, has a compound that can punch into microbial membranes, drain their energy, and even disrupt the shield that helps them hide. That's the one you came for. But first, you need number 2, because if you skip it, you'll miss why number 1 wins. Number 2 is clove. Clove is intense, not loud on social media, not trendy in wellness ads, but intense. If cinnamon is a security system, clove is a pressure washer. Its key compound is eugenol, and eugenol is not subtle. Research describes eugenol as antimicrobial against a wide range of bacteria, fungi, and even some parasites. It appears to damage microbial membranes, interfere with enzymes, and reduce inflammatory signals like IL-1 beta, IL-6, TNF-alpha, COX-2, and NF-kappa B. That means clove doesn't just hit microbes. It also turns down the inflammatory echo they leave behind. That matters more than most people realize, because sometimes you don't feel bad only because of the microbes. You feel bad because of what those microbes trigger: the swelling, the irritation, the immune noise, the "why do I look 6 months pregnant after dinner" feeling. Clove can help on both fronts. But here's the problem: it's strong, very strong. That means clove is powerful, but it is not a casual all-day spice for everybody. Overdo it, and your gut may push back, especially if you're sensitive. I give clove an 8.2 out of 10. High score. Serious tool, but not the king. Exact use: 1 whole clove or a small pinch of ground clove steeped in hot water for 5 to 7 minutes. Drink it after a heavy meal, not on an empty stomach at first. If you're adding it to food, think tiny amounts. Warning: clove can interact with blood thinners and may irritate sensitive stomachs. If you're pregnant, have ulcers, or take medications, be careful and ask your clinician first. And now we get to number 1, the one I kept teasing, the one that hits the shield, the membrane, and the energy system: oregano. Yes, oregano, the same thing sitting ignored in the back of your spice cabinet. But here's why oregano dominates this list. Its star compounds, especially carvacrol and thymol, are brutal for the wrong microbes. Carvacrol is lipophilic, which means it can push into microbial membranes. Research describes it as altering membrane potential, interfering with ATP, causing leakage of cell contents, and disrupting biofilms, while also helping prevent new ones from forming. In other words, oregano doesn't just annoy bad bacteria, it can strip their armor, punch holes in their wall, and drain the battery that keeps them functioning. That is why oregano wins. Not because it's fashionable, because it attacks on multiple levels. And that multi-hit effect is exactly what you want when your gut problem feels sticky, trapped, and stubborn. Remember the slime shield? This is the first spice on the list that directly speaks that language. This is where things change. And while the strongest human evidence is often on herbal combinations rather than oregano. Alone, one SIBO study found herbal therapy produced a 46% negative follow-up breath test rate versus 34% with rifaximin, and more than half of rifaximin non-responders who took rescue herbals later tested negative. That does not prove oregano alone is the cure, but it does show why antimicrobial herbs are taken seriously in stubborn gut cases. Most people get this wrong too. They either ignore oregano completely, or they go nuclear with oregano oil and wreck their stomach. Don't do that. If you're using oregano as a spice approach, start with the kitchen version first. The exact method is simple. Take 1 teaspoon of dried oregano leaves, crush it lightly, pour hot water over it, steep for 8 to 10 minutes. Drink 1 cup with or after lunch for 3 days. If you tolerate it well, go to 1 cup after lunch and 1 cup after dinner. Another easy method is using 1 teaspoon in cooked meals daily, especially with olive oil, soup, eggs, or roasted vegetables. If you want a stronger food-based version, combine dried oregano with a pinch of clove and Ceylon cinnamon in savory food once daily. That is the recipe. Simple, cheap, no hype. I score oregano a 9.3 out of 10, highest on the list, because it combines direct microbial pressure, membrane disruption, and biofilm interference better than the others. Now let's make this practical. What do you actually do starting tomorrow? Morning is about opening the system. Night is about calming it down. In the morning, start with ginger tea before or with breakfast if you tend to feel heavy, nauseous, or slow. If your gut is more inflamed than sluggish, use turmeric with breakfast instead. At lunch, bring in oregano. Not both cups immediately. Start with 1. You are testing response, not trying to win a war by Tuesday. At dinner, use cinnamon or clove depending on your pattern. If blood sugar swings, cravings, and irritation are big issues, choose cinnamon. If post-meal bloating and that fermented feeling hit hard, use a tiny amount of clove tea after the meal. Here's the timeline. By day 3, some people notice less pressure, less gas, and a flatter stomach by evening. By 1 week, bathroom patterns may feel more predictable, meals may sit better, and that heavy brick in the gut feeling may ease. By 30 days, if the approach fits your body, you may notice the real shift. Less fear around food, less noise after meals, less swelling, more trust in your gut again. Finally, but let me save you from the biggest mistakes. Mistake number 1 is doing too much too fast. You do not need every spice at full power on day 1. That is how you turn gut support into "why am I cramping at 2 a.m.?" Mistake number 2 is confusing stronger reaction with better result. If a spice makes you feel wrecked, that is not proof it's working. It may be proof you overdid it. Back off. Mistake number 3 is using probiotics blindly while ignoring your symptoms. If a probiotic makes you more bloated every single time, pay attention. That pattern matters. Remember, probiotic effects are strain-specific, not universal. Mistake number 4 is buying cheap cassia cinnamon and taking huge amounts daily. Don't. Use Ceylon if it's regular. Mistake number 5 is jumping straight to concentrated oils. This video is about spices and food style use for a reason. Concentrated essential oils are a different category and can be too harsh for many people. And one more warning. If you have severe abdominal pain, blood and stool, unexplained weight loss, fever, persistent vomiting, a diagnosed digestive disease, pregnancy, or you take medications like anticoagulants, don't self-experiment like this blindly. Use common sense and get medical guidance. Because the goal is not to punish your gut. The goal is to stop feeding the chaos and start changing the terrain. That's the real lesson here. If probiotics help you, great. But if they keep making you feel swollen, trapped, and worse, stop assuming more is better. Sometimes your gut doesn't need more passengers. It needs the traffic cleared. It needs the shield weakened. It needs the wrong microbes pushed out of their comfort zone. And sometimes that process begins with something so ordinary, you've walked past it 100 times. Oregano. So here's your challenge. Try the routine that fits your symptoms for the next 30 days. Keep it simple. Track your bloating. Track your bowel movements. Track how your stomach feels after meals. Track your energy at night. Watch for what quietly changes, because that is how real transformation happens. Not with hype, not with a dozen random supplements, with consistency, with observation, with one smart shift at a time. And if your gut starts feeling calmer, flatter, and more predictable, you'll know something important. The answer was never to keep throwing more bacteria into a crowded room. It was to finally change the room itself.